All right, next up for you guys, we got UFC on ESPN 6. This one's taking place in Boston.
Yeah.
Super excited about this card, actually. It's low-key got a litany of great
It's definitely
fights.
a couple good fights that we are both looking forward to.
100%. So the first one we're going to cover is the main event. That is Dominick Reyes taking on Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Dominick Reyes is coming in with a lot of hype. Honestly, he's undefeated, as we all know. He's called a destroyer. When he comes into his fights, it's not very often it's going to decision, although the last two were a split and a unanimous, both in his favor, obviously. But before that, it's TKOs and KOs across the board with submissions, a couple submissions in there as well. So this is a guy who likes to end fights.
Yeah, I think he's got all the physicality, the style to end fights. Honestly, man, I think he's a beast. From what I've seen from him, he's like...
You think he's the truth as well as me? I think he's the truth.
I think so, man. And I think Weidman... I like Weidman. I think he's going to have another rough day at the office.
If he gets KO'd again, I think he should retire. Because he's had some bad... Those knockouts weren't just knockouts. Like, he's had some violent... He's been on the ends of some violent...
Dude, remember when...
Yoel Romero?
Yeah, but remember when Luke Rockhold fucking welled on him for like a round and a half, Herb Dean?
Dean.
Fucking Herbie's like, I wonder if I should stop this. Bruh. Stop it.
It was pretty bad, honestly.
I think everybody watching that fight
He took a lot of accumulative damage in that Luke Rockhold fight. Like, that was a long procession of punches. But in terms of the Yoel Romero, that flying knee was absolutely devastating.
Oh my God.
So he's had the one-hit knockout, huge one-hit blunt knockout force, like you're done.
Right.
And he's also had the accumulative boom, 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 getting smacked around. Then obviously Gegard Mousasi finished him with TKO with some knees as well.
Yeah.
So and then he just lost his last fight against Ronaldo Souza.
Yeah.
He got KO'd in the third round. So all these knockouts, I'm looking at the rounds they're in. Luke Rockhold in the fourth, Yoel in the third, Gegard Mousasi in the second, Ronaldo Souza in the third round. So he's getting knocked out late into these fights, which means guys are figuring him out and then they're lining him up.
Yeah.
And because his cardio's never really been the thing that people looked at.
No.
It's never really been something that, there's a cardio problem. When you've lost 4 out of your last 5 fights, all of them via finish, TKO or KO.
I think his strength back in the day when he was on that winning run and ended up winning the title and all that stuff, I think it was his, first of all, he was a good athlete. There's no doubt about that. He was a good athlete when he was a little bit younger.
Yeah.
He was very persistent and he was just tenacious. He wouldn't give up. He would move forward. It was a style. There was never nothing flashy. It was a very kind of more standard style and all that, wrestling standard kind of striking. And I think as he progresses into his age and career, as he's accumulating some more losses and damage, I think it's just unrealistic to expect him to have a spike up again or something like that.
Right. I think the upward trajectory of his career is definitely over. He's not going to ever really experience that level of success again. And my hypothesis is he won it against Anderson Silva. Then he won it against Anderson Silva in the second fight where that infamous leg snapped. And then he beat Lyoto Machida in the fight after that.
Right.
Then he beat Vitor Belfort. So if you look at the names that he beat, these are guys that were aging out of the sport. Like Anderson, that was in 2013. Lyoto, that was in 2014, and a 2015 Vitor Belfort. So these guys were getting a little bit older, and they're kind of saying goodbye almost the same way he was in terms of being at the top of the creme de la creme, which is the UFC, at your sport. You are the best in the world, in the best promotion. Those days are not... he's honestly, in my view, he earned the victory against Anderson Silva by being there to KO him with the punch, being there to check that leg kick and snap that leg. But I would never sit there and be therefore, even though Silva's 0-2 against Weidman, he's a better fighter. I think what happens, he was in the right place at the right time, at the right age, with the right peak, with the right lack of depth. Because peak Weidman against a Yoel Romero, I think I'm still taking Romero. You know what I'm saying? Luke Rockhold, when Luke Rockhold in 2015 that was a different Luke Rockhold. We know what's going on there. There's no real excuse there. So I just think we've seen a guy that's peaked coming down. Dominick Reyes is his chance to take that number 4 status, bump Weidman out from slotted at number 8 and push himself up into I need to fight for the title next.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's that's about it for Weidman. I see him getting finished this coming ESPN.
KO, which round?
6. Yeah, I think maybe not to be too pessimistic or hating on Weidman, because like again I liked him and I still like him. I think he's a great guy. But second round, I would say second round.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Second round knockout. So that's how we have for Dominick Reyes.
Yep. What's the next fight we got?
Next up for you guys, we got Yair Rodríguez and Jeremy Stephens. So obviously with this one getting rescheduled to be getting pushed back due to...
When I just saw it, I was surprised because they fought like a month and a half ago or some shit like that. I don't know, like it was so recent. And we know what happened. Jeremy Stephens got poked in the eye. At which the audience, it was in Mexico, the audience, which it was the main fight of the night,
right,
did not react well to it, because I think from the audience's perspective, I'm not excusing their reaction. I'm just saying that it's more understandable for them to be disappointed because the whole night, all their money spent, like whatever, just to get, to the arena, all that stuff.
15 seconds.
And that's what happens. You don't get to see what you came to see, So I get the disappointment. I don't agree with the reaction of throwing things at Jeremy Stephens.
It's never a great reaction.
No. It's not good. Be respectful to the fighters, obviously. I think the whole hypothesis that Jeremy Stephens, faked an eye injury to get out of the fight is just bro, come on.
Seriously? If you don't believe, for whatever reason, go watch this other YouTuber. His name is Brian Sutterer. He breaks down awesome videos. He's a doctor. He breaks down what happens, and he medically explains why his reaction is legitimate and why it's he couldn't open his eye. When the doctor went to go like this and it couldn't, your eye has a reaction when you get poked in the eye to stay closed. So when he's opening your eye and he's not submitting to the doctor, that's not voluntary. It's involuntary. That's as real as it gets. And the doctor even says I think he got poked in both eyes. But the one that got the worst of it was the one that he was really focusing on.
Now, I'm going to tell you from someone that actually been poked in the eye, and I had a severe scratch on the cornea, is what the doctor actually put it as, was the term he used. And I got at jiu-jitsu, some guy reached, had his nails completely cut off, ended up, as I was going forward, his fingers went into my eye. Both fingers scratched me straight in my eye. Honestly, guys, I've never felt a pain as intense as that. Like getting punched, your nose, anything else, getting limbs broken is so much nicer. Sorry?
What about your nuts?
Better. I take a nut shot. I take 10 nut shots in a row to getting poked in the eye again, man. I swear to God, bro. I swear. Think about that. If I'm bold enough to say that,
I think that's the best way to put it.
And it lasts, that pain, and yes, you cannot even look up. It's intense, and it's just you can't do anything, man. I remember just going to the hospital. I had to have either my girlfriend at the time or my mom just literally lead me as a blind person, even though I got poked in one eye. The other eye, I couldn't really, because even keeping the other eye open was too messed up, it would fuck with my other eye. Because they're connected, right? They move together.
I get it.
So it was just intense. I would just stare at the floor with my sunglasses down, and someone would be leading me to the doctor's office, man. And that was for a week, bro.
Oh, man.
So, bro, if you get poked in the eye, you already know that shit is something that you cannot just breeze through and keep fighting.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate event that took place 15 seconds into the first round.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, stuff happens. I'm glad they're running it back. The Mexican fans are upset that they're not going to get to watch it firsthand, and I understand their grievance, but throwing stuff is never the answer. No. And that, it's just, you said don't disrespect the fighters, which I agree with. Right. Most importantly, don't endanger people. Yeah. You don't know once something leaves your hand, you can't control where it's going. You should definitely not get
how is that being a part of a crowd already just excuse you from being a human being? You get that crowd mentality and you're just it's okay now. If you were one-on-one on the street with someone, would you throw a bottle in their face just because?
Come on. It just makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
So, who you got in this fight? Is it straight up?
I'm going to, honestly, though, because I didn't like how Yair himself reacted to the whole thing.
Right.
Where he was, kind of, super mad at I get it, kind of, but also, just chill, bro. Be a man, you kind of, that was bitch behavior, if you ask me.
No, for sure.
And when I saw some clips after that where he confronted Jeremy Stephens in the lobby of the hotel. Yeah. Jeremy Stephens literally wearing his sunglasses, like someone that just got poked in the eye. And Yair's like confronting him, like getting in his face and like trying to be all like, bro, like just chill the fuck out, bro. So from my standpoint, I hope he gets knocked out, and I'm fucking rooting for Jeremy Stephens. Fuck you, Yair. I'm not even trying to be politically correct here. I think Yair's an amazing fighter, don't get me wrong. He's got an amazing style. Very good, very unique. But I hope he gets fucking knocked out, man. Shit, you acted like a bitch.
He did react very, very, like, immaturely afterwards. He was, like, screaming at everybody. Someone comes and talks to him, either getting in their face. Like, dude, like, stop. Like, why you're inciting, like... Everyone's kind of mirrored his behavior.
Yeah.
If he didn't react the way he reacted, I guarantee some of those people wouldn't have felt as emboldened and empowered to react the way that they did.
Of course.
The power of being the guy that everyone watches, like, you can't just not wield that with any kind of understanding of the concept that as you lead, others will follow. Yeah. So you started being petulant, and so the crowd started being petulant.
Especially a bunch of fans that came to see you, which already like look forward to seeing you and look up to you and all that shit. So yeah, man, I think just I hope Jeremy. Realistic from a styles perspective, I think Yair has an advantage. Obviously, from a strength perspective, Jeremy has an advantage. I'm rooting for Jeremy, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I wouldn't bet on that fight.
Yeah, with Yair, I'm going to go and say he's going to win, but
it's a fair
fighting is just fighting, so I think I'm going to take Yair on this one.
Okay.
But at the same time, if Jeremy wins, I won't be surprised. Yeah. Like, I'll put it that way. I think what's most interesting to watch is their walkouts and their face. Like, what kind of intensity are you looking at? Is it real? Is it authentic? Or are you just trying to hype yourself up too much? I love seeing... Like, I have predictions change as I'm watching guys walk out all the time. Yeah. Because a face will tell you a lot if you know what to look for.
It's a bit of a grudge match, right? So
For sure,
Yair's still probably butthurt, and James Stephens for sure wants to get him back. So again, I think advantage from a betting perspective maybe on Yair. My emotions are on for Jeremy. And the only caveat that I'm going to put in here is that from someone that's been scratched in the eye, 6 weeks or whatever, I don't know, has it been 2 months, whatever the fuck, it was like very recent. And I don't know, like for me, like my eye still hasn't recovered, and this shit was like 3-4 years ago, man. Like honestly, sometimes when even now when I'm rolling and I grind somebody's gi, or like even at the pillow, it's happened a few times where like I just scratch my eye on the pillow and it's like, oh fuck, yeah, you still feel the scratch or whatever.
Fuck.
So, so I don't know, man. I hope his eyes recovered, but I would be skeptical, and I think that he would be very susceptible to getting, re-injured in that same eye.
Yeah. For sure. That's a good point to put up there.
Let's see.
The next fight we have for you guys is Greg Hardy. He's taking on Ben Sosoli, sorry.
Yep.
And what's really interesting about this fight is that Greg Hardy's turning around pretty quickly after a couple quick, real first-round knockouts. Yeah. I think obviously with that disqualification from that illegal knee before, we all are cognizant of what that's all about. That really wasn't a great way to start, especially coming in with the background that he's coming in with.
Sure.
In terms of why he was unceremoniously let go from the NFL.
Right.
But we're not here to delve into that.
No.
So obviously he has these two huge knockouts, like quick ones too. This guy's got crazy power.
And he definitely got crazy power.
But we've only seen him in real slugfests. Nothing's been technical. Now, obviously, the heavyweight division is where you can get away with that for the longest. But there's a tier. There's levels to it.
Yes.
And like being able to be tough and knock people out is a third tier. You need other elements to your game.
So I'm gonna say this, like you said, he's had very short turnovers between fights. So I think that you can actually afford to do that when you like knock people out in the first round, right? You're like basically not taking any damage. You just prepare for your camp. You went in there for like a few seconds, you knocked someone out, you got out, you're good. It's like, it's no damage. So yeah, he should, as long as he keeps doing that, he should take as many fights as he can, especially in the heavyweight division. We know that he can stack up some numbers as well, because you just mentioned the competition is not the same. Yes, there's tiers, but it's tough in the heavyweight division, right? You have a couple guys at the top and everybody else is like 40 and over, like basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see now the guy that he's facing this time, Sosoli, or maybe we should call him Sosoti, because that's what's gonna be after the fight. But either way, I think Sosoli just maybe I'm ignorant, but from like I haven't really heard much about him. And
he's Dana White's Contender Series season 3 episode 10.
Okay.
And that was a no contest due to an eye poke, ironically.
Jesus.
So that was a no contest against Dustin Johnson. That happened in the first round as well. So that was just he hasn't fought in the UFC officially. This is his UFC debut. He's off of, again, Dana White's Contender Series. So we haven't seen him on this stage. I don't know if this is some sort of like I don't know if they're still trying to feed Greg Hardy a bunch of
to me, man.
A bunch of sandbag fights or something. But this doesn't seem like somebody who's going to be coming in here, at least in terms of how much we know who this person is. If he does win, it's going to be a great opportunity for him to make a name off of Greg Hardy's clout.
Who knows? Maybe it's the next big thing, but
at the end of the day, it just seems like they're just throwing the Rottweiler another T-bone.
That's what it seems like. And if we have to bet,
I got Greg Hardy knockout first round
all day. But he's a favorite as well, so just parlay it with with some other fights on the card, because there's no doubt he's winning that in my mind.
Next up, we got Joe Lauzon. Obviously, this guy's been around for
I was like, am I reading
the
this
hottest
right?
minute.
This guy is as old as the UFC, man. Like,
he's like 35 years old too.
Yeah.
It's so funny. He's been fighting since he was a youth. Because he's been in the UFC for how many years now? Let's go. UFC made his UFC not debut, but he obviously came out in UFC 63. Hughes versus Penny took on Jens Pulver.
Okay, so 13 years.
That's it.
Jesus.
It seems like forever, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
And
it's a different sport since he started, you know?
Yes, you're right. It is. It is completely a different sport. And to be able to parlay that kind of a skill and grow up in the sport as the sport evolves is very interesting. He has a mixed bag of results. Obviously, as a pro, he's 27 and 15, but he's been around the block. Obviously he's taking on Jonathan Pearce. Jonathan Pearce is 27 years old. I mean, he again, Dana White's Contender Series. This one's season 3 again. Another alumni from there. Episode 3 in this case. He had a TKO via punches with Jacob Rosales, but this is his debut for UFC. So it's rather interesting they're putting a grindy veteran up against a guy who's basically just making his first fight on the big stage, and he gets the main card.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, that fight doesn't really make too much sense, other than they're trying to build up this young buck, Jonathan Pearce. But like for Joe Lauzon, I don't know. He was trying to hang around. It doesn't make that much sense for me. Why you're fighting this young guy that can most likely knock you out, or like whatever? Like, I don't know if it's the money thing or whatever it is. And Joe Lauzon's taken some damage throughout his career. I know he has had some. That's not the topic of discussion really, but one of his kids was born with leukemia, I believe, or something like that, and they overcame that, and I was like, that was admirable. And I think he's an amazing person, Joe Lauzon. And I just don't get why he still comes back, especially fighting names like that. Have him fight BJ Penn or some shit at least, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think BJ Penn's ever going to be setting
No.
That
was
funny.
a total joke.
That's really funny.
No, I hope not.
All right, well, that's pretty much where we're at with that. Let's just go right back over these fights and just talk about some of the betting. Real quick, Dominick, Reyes, Chris Weidman. So we said the result there, but how strong do you feel about it?
I feel pretty strong. I can't lie. I think Dominick Reyes has this in the bag, and I think
agree.
He's definitely finishing Weidman.
And then Yair versus Jeremy Stephens. Do you touch it? Do you not?
I wouldn't touch it, but my heart is with Stephens. My mind is with Yair. If I would have to make like a cold-blooded bet, I wouldn't put it on Yair. But he's also the favorite. So if you bet on any of those fights, guys, it seems like most of the favorites are gonna win. So just parlay them together and get whatever you're gonna get from that, as opposed to trying to find the surprise.
The Yair and the Jeremy Stephens would pay off if you got it right. So that's an option. I would in terms of this fight, I wouldn't even touch it. But if you got it right, that would probably parlay pretty well. Yeah. Greg Hardy versus Ben Sosoli. I think we're both in agreement that it's going to be a Greg Hardy thing. And then Joe Lauzon versus Jonathan Pearce. You think Joe Lauzon doesn't have a chance?
No, I don't think he doesn't have a chance. He obviously got the experience on his hand, but I honestly don't know anything about this other guy. They don't even have a picture of him on fucking the UFC website. He's got a fucking black silhouette.
Oh my god, this is a silhouette. That should be his nickname.
So I really can't speak much to him. I haven't watched him, but
it was a TKO by punches for his last fight, so we know that he's got some power if he's able to knock a guy out. Now, again, it's on Dana White's Contender Series, so I don't know how much clout you want to say about power or the other guy just sucked or whatever. At the end of the day, he TKO'd somebody, and Joe Lauzon absorbs 5.4 significant strikes per minute. Yeah. That's pretty bad.
I definitely remember some of Joe Lauzon's fights. I just have like memories of that, of him getting just pummeled,
just being
like,
tough. And like
he's just,
fighting,
that was his thing,
fighting
right?
through all the crazy punishment he was taking.
That was his thing. He was the tough guy.
And I think that's the worst way to age your game.
So let me put it this way. I think he might be able to endure Pearce's punches in terms of like not getting knocked out in this fight, because it's a 3-round fight, and also
make Jonathan gas out.
And Jonathan's gonna be like maybe the lights, the shine, the bright lights. All that stuff is going to be still kind of new to him.
Right.
So consider that as well. But at the end of the day, I'll go more conservative here and just say maybe a decision for Pearce.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. I'd go with Pearce as well. If Joe Lauzon comes and beats this guy who's never fought in the UFC, then it's just another it's not really much of a notch on his belt. Yeah. For me, that's kind of an indifference, but I probably wouldn't even, just because of Jonathan Pearce, I'm not really sure what he's going to be like coming out there and making his debut. I might not touch that ahead of time, me personally, just because, again, I don't think I have enough of a depth of understanding of what he's going to do against someone like a Joe Lauzon on a stage like the UFC. Like that changes a lot. A lot of guys are comfortable, then they get out on the big stage, and not everyone's Israel Adesanya.
Hell no.
And Boston's big. You're on the main card.
Yeah.
He's kicking things off on the main card, so you got to think about that. Anyway, so that's our predictions. Let us know down in the description below, and we'll have a good time with you guys down there. But you guys always leave some funny comments, so we'll make it happen. All right, check you on the next one.
All right, guys.